In the heart of America, where the wind drifts softly across the wide plains of Nebraska, a quiet city called Omaha rises out of the prairie. It is neither a metropolis of glamour nor a capital of finance. Yet from one modest house on a shaded street, the heartbeat of global markets has echoed for decades. This is the home of Warren Edward Buffett, one of the most curious, disciplined, and beloved figures in modern economic history. Long before the world called him the Oracle of Omaha, he was simply Warren, a boy born during the Great Depression when the world seemed to have misplaced its faith in prosperity. He entered the world on August 30th, 1930, the second of three children to Howard and Layla Buffett. His father was a stockbroker turned politician, his mother a woman of quiet dignity who managed a frugal household through the hardship of the 1930s. Money was scarce then, but imagination was not. Even as a child, Warren saw the world in numbers. He counted bottle caps, memorized train schedules, and tracked the prices of soda pop in different neighborhoods. The pattern of profit fascinated him long before he fully understood it. At 6 years old, he bought a six-pack of Coca-Cola from his grandfather's grocery store for 25 cents and sold each bottle to neighbors for a nickel. His profit 5 cents a fortune to a first grader. Buffett's curiosity about value did not stop at soda bottles. By age 11, he had saved $120, no small feat in 1942, and decided to try what his father did for a living: buy a stock. With trembling hands, young Warren purchased 3 shares of Cities Service Preferred at $38 each. The price promptly fell to $27. He panicked, but he held on. When the stock finally crept back to $40, he sold relieved and slightly proud. A few weeks later, it soared above $200. The lesson seared itself into his mind. Like a brand, the greatest rewards come to those who wait. That simple childhood transaction became the cornerstone of his life philosophy: patience, discipline, and an unshakable belief in the long view. As he grew older, Omaha could no longer contain his curiosity. At 13, he delivered newspapers along intricate morning routes, memorizing the addresses of every customer, calculating which corners gave him the best tips, and tracking his earnings in neat columns on a ledger he kept under his bed. He filed his first tax return that same year, deducting his bicycle as a business expense. It was not mischief, it was method. He already thought like an accountant, half child, half entrepreneur. At 15, he bought his first pinball machine for $25 and convinced a local barber to let him place it in the shop. The quarters rolled in. Soon he owned 3 machines, then 7 scattered across Omaha's barbershops. By high school graduation, he sold the business for more than $1,000. He told friends he would be a millionaire by the time he was 30. They laughed. He was not joking. Though his father hoped he would follow him into politics, Buffett's interests were entirely elsewhere. He devoured books with titles like 1,000 Ways to Make $1,000 and The Intelligent Investor. He loved the arithmetic of possibility, the logic of enterprise. In 1947, when he entered the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania, he already knew more about compound interest and market psychology than many of his professors. But he found the lectures dull and theoretical. He wanted the pulse of the real market, the ticker tape, the smell of paper stock certificates, the language of risk and reward whispered between traders. 2 years later, he transferred to the University of Nebraska, finishing his degree while running a small investment partnership from his dorm room. He graduated at 20, but his real education was still to come. It arrived in the form of a book by Benjamin Graham, The Intelligent Investor, a volume that changed his life forever. Graham's idea was revolutionary, yet simple. Every stock has an intrinsic value that can be measured, and the market's mood swings often price it far above or below that worth. The wise investor Graham taught buys when others are fearful and sells when others are greedy. Buffett recognized truth when he saw it. He decided he would study under the master himself. Rejection met him first. Harvard Business School declined his application. Disappointed but undeterred, Buffett wrote directly to Benjamin Graham, who was then teaching at Columbia University. Against the odds, Graham accepted him. At Columbia, Buffett found what he had been searching for: a framework for his instinct. Graham, alongside economist David Dodd, turned theory into touchable logic, and Warren absorbed it like a sponge. He became the best student Graham ever had, even offering to work for him for free after graduation. When Graham finally hired him at Graham Newman Corp., Buffett was 24 and newly married to Susan Thompson, a woman of warmth and artistic spirit who would become both his moral compass and his greatest friend. In the modest offices of that New York firm, he began to see the market not as a gambling table, but as a living organism of fear and hope. Graham's discipline sharpened Buffett's natural patience. He learned to look at a company as if he were buying the entire business, not just a piece of paper. Still, New York never felt like home. Buffett missed Omaha, the slow rhythm, the familiarity, the sense of groundedness. When Graham retired in 1956, Warren packed his family and savings and returned to Nebraska. That summer he began what would become one of the most extraordinary experiments in American financial history, the Buffett Partnership Ltd. He pooled $105,000 from 7 local investors, friends and relatives, who trusted the quiet young man with a knack for numbers, and put in only $100 of his own. His promise was simple: he would invest their money as he invested his own, and he would be paid only if he made them profits. No slick salesmanship, no fancy offices, just trust, arithmetic, and an old desk in his home. What began as a neighborhood venture would within a decade make him a millionaire many times over. But at that point in the story in 1956, he was still a soft-spoken Midwesterner with a dream and a discipline forged in childhood lemonade stands and newspaper routes. The seeds were planted, the soil of Omaha rich with patience. The boy who once sold soda bottles for a nickel was now about to redefine the meaning of value itself.